Dude, it's not gonna work.
I'm smart. Trust me, it will work.
I need salt. Where's the salt, Thomas? Delicious. Now water, please.
Dude, it's not gonna work.
Where is it? Thank you. See you on the other side, Thomas.
Tom? Told you I could do it, Tom.
How's it going, guys? It's your boy McAtee here, back for another video. Today we're going to be creating this Stranger Things episode type look and just seeing how it goes. When it comes to green screen stuff or screen replacement stuff, I find being prepared helps a lot. Yeah, I'm not the best example. Because I knew how much time I had to shoot this sketch, which is pretty much done, I knew that I wanted to make the whole process as simplistic as I could. If you're going to be filming a more complex scene, I would highly recommend that you use a storyboard or actually think about what you're going to do before you go out and do it. If you're not prepared when you're doing green screen work, it will come back to haunt you, so always be prepared. Once you have got your ideas and a plan, it's time to set everything up. I'd recommend that you follow these tips that I'm about to lay out, because if you don't, it will come back to haunt you, and I've had that experience. It's not very pleasant. Number 1, if you can, make sure that you have a wider and taller background. That way, it will decrease your chances of having to roto or mask out certain parts of your subject, which kind of defeats the purpose of a green screen. Number 2, the key to a successful key is to light your background the best you can. You want to keep your eye out for ripples or dark shadows, because they will ruin your project later on. Lighting your background will also help you remove shadows from your subject, which can be disastrous. Number 3, try and increase the distance between your subject and the background. This is useful when you have a crappy setup or when your lights just aren't enough. Number 4, match your camera angle. See, I made the mistake of filming Ethan way too close, which would have worked fine, but I wanted to scale him down and make it look like he was in a big room, which actually had a worse effect than if I just shot him at a wider distance. This resulted in some depth perception issues, which made it look a bit odd. To match the look of the show, I used artificial lighting to simulate where the light would be falling relative to what the image looked like. Looking at the screenshot from the show, I knew that I wanted to try and replicate a soft overhead light, allowing for a little bit of shadow, but mostly evenly lighting it overall. So my solution was to bounce the light off the roof, which kind of worked. Once you've filmed your content, it's time to head into After Effects. I'm going to be working on this shot and this shot, so you know how to do both close-ups and wide shots. This effect is also really easy to do, as it just combines a couple simple green screening effects. First thing to do is import our footage into After Effects and create a new composition. In our new composition, we're going to create a mask around the subject. In order to reduce the amount of green, we're going to have to key later on, which in turn may help you reduce the chance of ugly noise or a bad key. If your subject happens to be moving outside of the green screen, you may have to do some rotoscoping, or you may have to keyframe a mask around the subject. I've linked a video in the description that goes into more detail on how to do this. From the effects tab, we're going to select Key Light and place it on top of our current layer. Click the screen color tab and select a part of the screen to use. Next, we can change the viewing mode by selecting the drop down menu and changing it to Combine Matte. We'll be able to see the contrast between the mask and fine tune our image. Go down to Screen Matte and adjust the Clip Black selection. Note that the higher the value, the less detail is preserved, so you have to find a balance. Go down to Key Cleaner and adjust the additional edge radius. I find using a minimal amount helps soften the edges. If there is a green roll-off on your image, turn on Advanced Spill Suppressor, which should help you reduce the amount of green around the edges. We can now place the background behind the layer. What I did is I created a new solid and just used that as a background. From the wide shot, I wanted to replicate the reflection from the sample image. In the sample video, you can see that Eleven's feet are submerged underwater. In order to replicate this effect, I pre-comped the image and added another mask to cut off part of the subject's feet. To get the reflection, we need to duplicate our edited layer, open the transform options, unclick the lock scale button, and flip the image by adding a minus along the x-axis. We can then rotate the image and place it underneath our main layer. I also turned the opacity down slightly. In order to create the water ripples, I created a new solid object. I scaled it up a bit, added a bit of blur and fractal noise. I also used the corner pin tool, which allowed me to replicate where the floor would be in 3D space. Pre-compose the solid and call it water. Keyframe the evolutions and the offset turbulence by dragging the playhead to the start and clicking the keyframe button. Then drag the playhead to the end of the composition and adjust the value. You can now place the water layer at the bottom of your composition and turn it off. Add an adjustment layer, search up displacement map and drag it onto the mirror clip. Change the source to water and adjust the horizontal displacement. In order to match the color of the show, I added Lumetri color to both the subject layer and the mirror layer. It's important that you fine tune your shot depending on what looks right to you and what your personal taste is. Here's what I did to replicate the tone and the look of the show. I cooled off the white balance, increased the contrast, pulled the whites and highlights up, decreased the blacks and shadows, reduced the saturation, added a bit of sharpening, played around with the RGB curves, took out some of the reds and took out some of the blues. But you could also use a LUT to color your image and just adjust it based on that. Now the key to selling this effect is sound, just sound. Somewhere out there, some filmmaker said that audio is 50% of your project, and he's 100% right, even though I don't know who he is. So I jumped into Premiere and added some sounds and effects. I first added denoiser to clean up the audio a little bit, then I added some reverb, and then I added a bit of compression. For the Foley and the sounds used, I just use some dripping water, a low rumble sound that I found off YouTube, some more dripping taps, and some wet footsteps. And that's it. You pretty much have created, you created nothing. Good job. Technically it's nothing. I hope you guys learned something new today, and if you haven't seen Stranger Things and you're watching this video, maybe go watch Stranger Things. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.